You've poured your soul into your art, spent years crafting your vision, but the moment you step up to claim your place in the world, those doors don't just close, they're slammed in your face. The door that should be open to talent, the door that should welcome visionaries, the door that promises recognition for those bold enough to step inside. But instead of a warm invitation, what do you hear? Nothing. Instead of acknowledgement, all you get is silence. And then, a door slammed in your face. No explanation, no opportunity to plead your case, no room for discussion. You're dismissed. Just like that. You've been told, without a word, that you don't belong. You've been told that your talent, your effort, your very identity doesn't fit into their world. But what they don't know, what they can't even begin to understand, is that you are not someone who waits for permission. You are not someone who gives up when a door closes. You won't be silenced. You won't be boxed in. You won't be stopped. What they've rejected is about to become the very thing they'll have no choice but to recognize. Because this isn't just a story of rejection, it's a story of rebellion, a story of someone who refused to let others decide her worth. She didn't wait for an invitation. She created her own path, and in doing so, she forced the world to take notice. The very people who shut the door on her, now they're the ones knocking. Now they're the ones desperate to see what she has to offer. This is the story of one woman who didn't just overcome rejection, she shattered it. And in the process, she redefined the world of art forever. They told her she didn't belong, but now they can't look away. For years, she had created in the shadows. Piece by piece, she crafted a world on canvas, each brushstroke a reflection of her identity, her struggle, her vision. And now, it was time. Time to step into the light. Time to share what she knew was extraordinary. This was her chance to be seen, to belong among the celebrated. She wasn't asking for favors. She wasn't hoping for charity. All she wanted was a fair chance. She believed her work would speak for itself. It had to. The gallery was everything she had dreamed of. Prestigious, renowned, a place where artists are immortalized. She stood before its doors, ready to take her place. But sometimes, the world doesn't open up when you knock. Sometimes, no matter how prepared you are, no matter how good you know your work is, they won't even give you the chance to be heard. She wasn't just turned away, she was dismissed, without a second glance, without a moment's consideration. No matter how good her work was, to them, she simply didn't belong. Her talent, ignored. Her work, invisible. All they saw was someone they didn't believe was worthy of their space, someone they didn't think fit their image of what an artist should be. And with that, the door closed once again. In that moment, everything she had worked for seemed to fall apart. The doors to her dreams weren't just closed, they were slammed shut with indifference. And so she stood there, not as an artist, not as a creator, just as another person left outside the gates, another talent unseen. But what they didn't realize, what they couldn't possibly know, is that this wasn't the end of her story. This was just the beginning. Long before she faced rejection, long before the doors closed, there was a girl with a dream, a girl who found her world in color, in shapes, in the freedom that only a blank canvas could offer. From the moment she first held a crayon, she knew. Her mother saw it first, the talent, the passion, the gift. She nurtured it, told her daughter that her voice was important, that her art was important, that one day the world would see her for what she truly was, an artist, a visionary. But the world didn't always see what her mother saw. Growing up, she learned quickly that talent alone wasn't enough, that being a black woman in the art world came with its own set of struggles. People questioned her, doubted her, ignored her, and as the years went by, doubt began to creep in. She watched as others, who didn't look like her, moved through the art world with ease. She saw doors open for them that had always remained closed for her. The doubt grew. Was her art not enough? Was she not enough? And in those moments, the question haunted her. Would she ever be seen? Time and time again, she stood on the outside, watching as others were praised, watching as their art was celebrated, while hers was left unnoticed. She began to wonder, was it her work or was it her? Each rejection cut deeper. Each time her art was passed over, the weight of doubt grew heavier. It became harder to believe in herself, harder to keep going. The whispers of insecurity threatened to drown out the passion that had once burned so brightly. In those moments, she considered giving up. Maybe the world wasn't ready for her. Maybe it would never be. But then she remembered. The little girl with crayons, the mother who told her she was an artist, the countless hours spent bringing her visions to life. This wasn't just a career. This was who she was. This was her voice. And no matter how many doors closed, no matter how many people doubted her, she couldn't silence that voice. Not now, not ever. She wasn't done, not by a long shot, and if they weren't going to let her in, she'd make her own way. The rejection was more than just a moment. It echoed in her mind, relentless, unforgiving. Every brushstroke, every late night spent creating, every moment of belief, wiped away in a single instant. She sat there, the silence louder than any words could be, questioning everything. What was she supposed to do now? She had been turned away, dismissed without a second thought. Did it mean her work wasn't good enough? Did it mean that she wasn't good enough? Should she keep fighting for a place that didn't seem to want her, or was this where the road ended? She had always believed in her talent, in her art, but now doubt had crept in, whispering insidiously in her ear. Maybe it was time to give up. Maybe this was the final sign that she didn't belong in their world. She thought about walking away, leaving it all behind. The temptation was there, strong, convincing. But then something stirred inside her, a flicker of the fire she had always carried. She remembered the years she had spent painting, the passion that drove her every day. The rejection had hurt. It had wounded her deeply, but it hadn't destroyed her. Not yet. Maybe she didn't need them. Maybe she never did. Maybe instead of fighting for a place in their world, she would create her own. Maybe the rejection wasn't an end, but a beginning. As the colors filled the canvas, she realized something. She didn't need their approval. She didn't need their validation. What she needed was to show the world what she could do on her own terms. And so, she painted each stroke a declaration, each color a challenge. Her work wasn't just about art anymore. It was about proving herself. It was about taking back control. The rejection had ignited something in her, a fire that couldn't be extinguished. She wasn't just creating for herself anymore. She was creating for everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough, for every artist who had been turned away, for every voice that had been silenced. She knew what she had to do. If the galleries wouldn't open their doors to her, she would open her own. She would put her art on display, not hidden away in some distant corner, but front and center for the world to see. The exhibition would be hers. She would curate it, promote it, and invite the world to see her work. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about reclaiming her power, about standing tall in a world that had tried to keep her small. She worked tirelessly, pouring every ounce of her energy into the exhibition. The date was set. The invitations were sent. But as the day drew closer, one question remained. Would anyone come? She had done everything she could. The stage was set. But now she had to wait. And in that silence, the question lingered. Would the world finally see her? The day had finally arrived. Every brushstroke, every sleepless night, every ounce of frustration and hope led to this moment. Her art filled the room, each piece speaking louder than any words could. But now, the question that had haunted her still lingered. Would anyone listen? She had done everything she could. The exhibition was ready. The invitations had been sent. And yet, the doubt crept in. What if no one came? What if the doors stayed closed, even now? She had put everything on the line, and the uncertainty was overwhelming. But this time, the fear didn't control her. She had faced rejection before. She had faced silence. This time, she wouldn't walk away. This time, they would have to see her. They came, slowly at first, curious, cautious, unsure of what to expect, and then, as the minutes passed, more arrived. The room began to fill. Faces she recognized, faces she didn't, each one taking in the work she had poured her heart into. And then something changed. The room, once filled with the quiet murmur of conversation, fell silent. The critics who had once dismissed her, the gallery owners who had turned her away, they stood there, speechless. One by one, they realized what they had overlooked. The very people who had rejected her, who had turned her away without a second glance, were now the ones who couldn't look away. The art they had once dismissed now demanded their attention, and there was no denying its power, no denying her. She had done it, on her own terms, in her own way. They were finally seeing her for what she was, a true artist, not because they let her in, but because she had forced them to pay attention. I misjudged you. Your work, it's extraordinary. We would love to offer you a space in our gallery. You deserve to be seen. The offer she had once dreamed of was now in front of her. The validation she had sought was finally within reach. But something had changed. Thank you, but I don't need your gallery. I found my place. She had gained the recognition she deserved, but not by fitting into their world. She had built her own, and in doing so, she had become unstoppable. She didn't just prove them wrong, she redefined what it meant to be an artist. She didn't need their galleries. She didn't need their permission. All she needed was her voice, her art, and the courage to show the world what they had missed. She wasn't just seen, she was celebrated, and the world would never forget her name. We've all faced closed doors. We've all encountered moments where the world told us a no. But the real question is, what would you do when the doors to your dreams are shut? Would you wait for them to open, or would you find another way in? Her story is just one of many. We all have moments when the world tries to tell us who we are, where we belong, and what we can achieve. But in the end, only you can define your path. So tell us, what's your story? Have you faced rejection? Have you had to carve your own path when the world wouldn't let you in? Share your experiences with us in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if this story inspired you, if it reminded you of your own journey, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate resilience, creativity, and the power of never giving up. Her art wasn't just a reaction to rejection. It was a testament to her undeniable talent, resilience, and the power of staying true to one's vision. What you've seen here today is more than a story about art. It's about finding your voice when the world refuses to listen. It's about creating your own path when others try to block your way. Her journey speaks to something greater, something we all face. The barriers, the doubts, the moments when the world says no. But the real strength comes from saying yes to yourself, to believing in your own vision, even when others don't. Your journey matters. Your story matters. Don't ever forget that. And if you've been inspired by this story, stay with us. We have more real-life stories, more journeys of resilience and creativity waiting to be told. Subscribe, stay tuned, and let's keep exploring these stories together, because the world needs more voices, more dreams, more visionaries, just like you.